So you know how there's probably like 5,000 different variants of travel tripods in the market? Well, this new one from Ulanzi has a unique design and actually offers a little twist to it. In this video, let's talk about the Ulanzi JJ05 GlideGo Travel Tripod. Okay, so this is the Ulanzi JJ05. It's dubbed the GlideGo Travel Tripod. Now, this is a 5-section carbon fiber tripod with aluminum hardware on the locks and on the joints. And when fully folded up, it only measures 47 centimeters. Now, I really like the fact that it is a 5-section tripod because what they did here is basically they were able to really make it as short as possible but still get to the usual height of a travel tripod. Now on the joints, it uses aluminum clip locks, which are basically another point of preference. I usually prefer twist locks, but for this purpose, I think clip locks are actually much better. Why? Because even though this is a travel tripod, it actually can be used for a few professional use cases, especially product photography. Now, you might be wondering why. I will show you that specific feature later. Now, when all the 5 sections are fully extended without the center column, it measures 1.38 meters. However, one unique thing about this is the fact that it actually has a 2-staged center column, meaning that it goes up this way, and when you unlock it further, it can go up this way, and that actually measures 1.8 meters, 1.84 to be exact. That's actually really tall for a travel tripod. However, of course, you would have to think about stability if you're doing long exposures or something like that. Now, if you actually check out the text on one of the sections of the legs, it actually says overhead travel tripod. Why? Because it can do this. So there's a knob right here that basically unlocks the angle, and then with this lever, you can pull it out and turn it this way. And what I really like about this is it doesn't just turn 90 degrees, but you can actually use it with many different angles because there are actual stops to the joint. Now, one important thing to take note of is that if you're going to be using it this way, especially if you're using a relatively heavy camera setup, then you should be using a counterweight. Now, there's a hook right here on the end of the inner center column, and there's also a hook right here at the end of the main or the bigger center column here where the joint is. Now, in general, this tripod can actually hold up to 5 kilograms of gear. However, for a configuration like this, I would of course suggest that you be using a relatively lighter setup. So this is a Sony ZV-E10 with a 20mm. This would roughly be around maybe 500 to 600 grams. So I think this is the kind of setup that you can use without any counterweight. Any setup that goes beyond 1 kilogram, I would suggest you use a counterweight on any of the parts just to make it more stable. Now, before we talk about the head, let's talk about the central joint right here. Now, on the joints for the legs, there's of course a huge tab that you can pull to be able to adjust the angles of the legs. So it can technically go flat on the floor. However, that's not going to give you a very low minimum height because of course the center column is going to be in the way. Now, of course, if you adjust the main center column, then there's still going to be a lot of height between the camera and the ground. So it doesn't really give you too low of a minimum working height, but still you have options because of course you can extend the secondary center column and then angle it downwards. Now, on the central joint, of course, there is this knob right here that controls the friction for the main center column, and here on the other 2 corners would be 1/4-inch threads for arms and other accessories that you might want to use on it. Now, as we move up, we have another knob right here that basically controls the first panning axis, and that basically goes 360 degrees. However, I did notice that when it's on the lowest level and you try to rotate it, it actually hits the joints of the leg. So you need to adjust it a little bit upwards to be able to get the 360 degree panning on this level. Now, when we go up, of course, there is the lever lock for the secondary center column right here. And we lock it just like that. And when we rotate again on the other side is the knob for the secondary center column, for the angles to be specific, right here. Now, just like many of the recent travel tripods, this uses an inverted type of ball head, which means that instead of the ball being on the upper part, it's actually the other way around. And there is a capsule-like part that basically engulfs that ball. Now, what that does is basically minimize the size of the entire head. So of course, there's a lever right here that controls the action of the ball. I would have to say that this is pretty tight in terms of a joint. And there is no additional way to lessen the tightness of that. I don't know if that's going to be a bit more loose when we keep using this tripod in the future. Now, right here on top is another panning axis that you can use so that you can maintain the level of the legs and of the ball head and of everything else and still be able to have a 360 degree pan that will not change with the rotation. Now, another important thing to know is that this Ulanzi JJ05 GlideGo tripod uses their proprietary quick release mount called Yuka. And this is also compatible with Falcam's F38. So it uses a square type of quick release plate and a square type of quick release clamp. Now, how easy is it to mount it? Well, all you really have to do is place the square on the bigger square and then it locks that way. Now, why do I say that it's important to know? Well, it's because this plate is compatible with Arca Swiss. The F38 or the Yuka plate is compatible with Arca Swiss type clamps. However, you cannot use other Arca Swiss type mounting plates on this quick release platform because, of course, it's a square and most other Arca Swiss type plates are going to be using a more rectangular shape. So is it universal? Not as much. The plate is universal, the quick release mount is not. So that's something you might need to know, especially if you use other tripods. Luckily, I've been using the Yuka and the Falcam F38 plates for almost all my cameras, so that's not really a problem for me. So this definitely is a unique kind of travel tripod. I would have to say that if you are anyone who prefers of course, lightweight tripods, then this is a good option for you. Now, if there's another use case for you, or for example, you do product shots or food shots when you travel, then the center column going sideways would really be helpful, especially if you want to do some top shots or some flat lays. Now, in a way, it's a typical travel tripod, but of course, I would have to commend the build quality on this. It actually does feel premium for such a small tripod, and it feels sturdy for such a small tripod. It can again carry 5 kilograms of gear, especially if you're not going to be tilting the center column. So as a compact solution for tripods, this is actually something I would consider whenever I'm packing light. And there we go. This is again the Ulanzi JJ05 GlideGo tripod. And if you have any questions about this, do leave them down below in the comment section. Of course, if you're new to the channel, my name is Nicco Valenzuela. I'm a landscape and architectural photographer. And in this channel, I talk a lot about the gear and some tutorials about photography here and there. So if you're new to the channel, do click that subscribe button and hit that notification bell. In any case, thanks for watching.